super coach with Amen Clinics. Welcome, Fallon, to No Guts, No Glory Live.
Thank you. I still laugh when people say my title.
Well, we will hear all about that in just a minute.
Totally.
So we are live, and to everybody who's watching, we encourage you to please start a watch party so we could get this message out to all those who need to hear it. My teammate Casey is in the comments, so if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. She will be sending them to me throughout our live event today. So Fallon, super excited to have you here today. Fallon and I actually work together at Amen Clinics. I do some consulting for them. And as I mentioned before, she is a brain health super coach. So tell us, what the heck is a brain health super coach?
So Dr. Amen came up with a name, which is the biggest compliment you could get, right? When we were sitting down and discussing my transition into a new role and what that new role was going to be, from doing brain health coaching with patients to doing brain health coaching for other brain health coaches. And that's kind of where he came up with the term super coach. So I was certified through BrainMD and Amen University as a brain health coach. I worked at the clinic, but I just had a bachelor's degree, so anyone can sign up for this course and find it incredibly life-changingly useful. So that was 7 years ago. I got certified. I was working with patients, incorporating that into pretty much every aspect of my life to anyone that would listen. And once we were trying to think about different things that I could do, and I told Dr. Amen this, he's like, what do you want to do? And I was like, I just keep getting this message that I need to do something bigger and I need to speak. I don't know what that means. And at this point, I still had like crazy anxiety of doing anything related to Zoom, let alone video, let alone live. And so we just kind of sat down and pitched different ideas. And he's like, why don't you run our brain health coaching practice and like help them implement? And then when they are certified, helping them put those protocols into their practice. If they are professional and they're referring a patient to the clinics, like hand holding them through that process. And I was like, that is exactly what I want to do. Why didn't I think of that? So we came up with that term, which is fitting because when I do reach out to people that are brain health coaches already or have just signed up for the course, and they kind of see after the email, because I don't introduce myself that way. I just say, hey, I'm here to support you, whatever you need. But then like in my email signature, it'll be like brain health super coach. And I have hashtag brain health super coach on Instagram and like on LinkedIn. Everything on Facebook is just about brain health coaching. So it's just a really cool world. I mean, there's brain health coaches everywhere with all different walks of life. I was just on the phone, like I said, got here right in time with one of my friends who's a psychiatrist who is an Amen brain health coach. And then I have friends that are moms and teachers that are brain health coaches. And then a lot of the population that I give a little extra handholding and serve are the therapists and counselors, because they refer a lot to us, especially also like naturopaths and functional medicine doctors. And our goal is just to spread the message of brain health, helping as many people as possible with whatever they've been labeled with, whether it's mental health issues, psychiatric issues, even physical symptoms that, they've seen several different specialists that have looked at every other pick and part piece of their brain or body, but not their brain. When you think of specialists in the medical world, rheumatologist and orthopedist and all these different terms, when we're really trying to get down to the root of what's going on, and it starts here and then we work our way down.
Well, I love, there's a quote that Dr. Amen uses, and it's, when your brain works right, you work right. And we sometimes forget about that, right? If our arm feels sore, we'll go to the doctor, or maybe we're having like heart palpitations or something, we'll go to the doctor, or we're tired and we'll go to the doctor, but you forget our brain kind of controls everything that we do. And it's so interesting, as I've been working with Amen Clinics, is learning that you really can, if you just change your brain, you can change other things within your body too. It's more than just going to the gym and the physical activity. That all contributes to better health, but your mental health will help you have better physical health too. So it's really exciting. I just love what you guys are doing and love working with you guys. So thank you for sharing. So the series is called No Guts, No Glory. And Fallon, with your hope or with your help, my hope is we will help others find the courage and strength to look within themselves and go out and follow their professional dreams. And sometimes that entails making some hard decisions. And sometimes it means being gutsy. So, will
Yes.
you tell us about a time in your career that took guts or where you had to make maybe a difficult decision?
So there were a lot of them on a regular basis, just because in the position that I was in previously working with patients, I was the first person without a master's degree to go into that position. And what was kind of crazy and cool was that my supervisor at the time actually applied for the job for me because it would have been a step up in the company, but she didn't tell me. She didn't want to get my feelings hurt because at that point you had to have a master's degree to do that job. So I got this job. I was like over the moon excited. I was almost willing to go back for my master's to do the patient outcome manager position at Eamon Clinics, and they gave it to me. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. And then it just kind of opened up all of these doors as far as like, okay, now I'm going to be a certified coach. And now I understand more about counseling and therapy and why it's important in mental health and brain health. Cause when I got into Eamon Clinics, it was just like, I was on the brain health wagon, like instantly. And I kept forgetting about some of those other pieces, which for me, it's such a different story than a lot of people that we do help. Cause I started with brain health and biological health because I got a scan very quickly, but my psychological, social, and spiritual health was not good. I didn't even believe in God when I first started at the clinic. And now it's the most important thing in my life. And I write and pray every day, twice a day. So for me, as far as needing guts, it was just almost on a daily basis where I needed to remind myself that I deserve to be here. I'm doing a good job. I am making a difference in people's lives every day, whether or not it feels as instant and validating as it does maybe for other people who do have a medical degree, who do have a master's degree. And so I've battled with that for a long time. I'd say probably in the past 6 months, so around like the intensity of COVID, I've actually started believing those thoughts when I tell myself that, like, I do deserve to good things. I can help people while helping myself at the same time. Like, I don't have to choose, because I used to feel like that a lot. And so just work around my thoughts, and then my relationships was also a big thing. I was in a very unhealthy relationship when I started at the clinic. And now I realize how much that affected my health and how much it can cause just a string of bad decisions, which is funny because I was like, what are we going to talk about today? And then last night was live talking about what's the worst decision you've ever made. And I'm like, oh my God, if you even knew bad decisions I've made over the past 7 years, but them getting gradually less intense and much less frequent because I'm taking care of my brain.
So yeah, your brain health, you have a healthy brain, you're making better decisions, maybe getting rid of bad relationships. You're
Yeah.
not
So
the
just,
first person to talk about faith either. We've had others come on and say, that had a lot to do with making this career change. I've even made some comments before. I was going through some tough times and I was like, okay, I'm just leaving it up to you, God, because I don't know what to do. So just give me a sign, right?
yeah. And that's so much of the reason why I kind of blossomed and started wanting to do these videos when it used to be my biggest fear. There was just this very quick thing that happened after one of my sessions with my personal counselor. And I was like, this is where I need to be. This is like what I need to be doing. Whatever anxiety I had before, I mean, to the point where you want to talk about no guts, like my gut hurt, like my chest hurt. Sometimes I would almost black out when I was doing public speaking. Like, it was pretty severe.
Mm.
I knew, right? Like, I thought that everybody felt that way. I thought everybody would stay up all night worrying about looking like an idiot before they had to talk to people. And I'm just talking to my college professors, not even getting in a group of people and trying to educate them about brain health. So I think I just started kind of coaching myself, and I have to remind myself of that multiple times a day. Like, what would I say to my coaching patient? Because the patients that I have had really close relationships with and have really had leaps and bounds levels of healing are so kind and say that I'm such a part of that because I was their cheerleader. But at the same time, like, I was holding them accountable to the bio, psycho, social, spiritual things that they needed to do in their treatment plan that were hard because it was completely revamping every decision that they make throughout the day. And so I try to think about like, what would I tell my patient if they are feeling this way or having this negative thought? Like, what would I tell them? And then I try to incorporate that in so that I'm not having that problem or that bad thought.
Is there any one exercise you do when you start to notice, okay, the negativity is creeping in, we all go through it, we do it. I notice that, I'm starting to get better about recognizing when that starts to happen. But is there a tip you can give to the audience or something you do when you start to recognize, all right, those negative thoughts are creeping in? How do you try to change that?
So the killing the ants that Dr. Amen talks about is super helpful.
Yeah, and ANT stands for
automatic negative thoughts.
Yeah.
And you can go online to My Brain Fit Life, and it actually walks you through. I also have the worksheets. At this point, I've been doing them for 8 years, so I kind of know by heart. Like, I just remind myself, okay, I'm having this negative thought. It's this species of automatic negative thought, which once you look through them, you'll kind of see the ones that you're more prone to. And mine is always or never thinking, and then guilt beatings, just kind of automatically just kind of blaming myself and like wanting to internalize when it's like, no, like I need to deal with this thought. I need to realize that it's not true. I need to think of the opposite statement of this. And then I say or write down 3 things that I'm grateful for. And I'll tell you, since I've been doing my morning, evening gratitude prayer, and I've been very consistent with that more than like anything else I've ever done in my life, even my supplements, don't tell Dr. Amen. It's made the biggest difference because I've been in this new position for 9 months. I have been ecstatically happy throughout this entire time, but the last few weeks, especially after a heartbreak, I've been able to pioneer and go through this so much easier than I thought without actually not dealing with it. Because I can, like everybody, like our brain does things to protect ourselves. Like we might dissociate or just detach. And that's the last thing that I want, especially when tomorrow we're going to be talking about PTSD and TBI. And one of the classic symptoms of that, especially PTSD, is just emotional detachment. And that is more of a health risk than even just being sad or depressed. And I don't think a lot of people realize that unless they've done kind of like a standardized depression inventory that a standard psychiatrist made them fill out. But that's something that I've always worked on and been like, okay, like what can I do to be in touch with how I'm feeling? Know that it's okay, but know for next time when I feel stupid, rejected, unappreciated, lied to, whatever, that I handle it better the next time. And it's not from a place of blame or resentment. It's from a place of, you know what, this happened for me to grow. This didn't happen to me to set me back. Like this was in some cheesy manner, a gift. And
it's so
probably, I mean, there's very few inspirational speakers, motivational speakers, spiritual healers, etc., that I haven't read their book or listened to their podcast. And I feel like I just kind of take the bits and pieces of everybody that I like and try to composite it into my own belief system. And so much of it just comes back to gratitude and realizing that everything that is happening for you to grow.
It's true. There really is a lesson to be learned in everything. So you did mention about an event you're doing tomorrow, and I will get to that in a minute, but it's a really special event. It's a live streaming Fallon's doing with other BH health coaches, and it's for veterans, first responders, and our frontline workers. But real quick, before I get into that, I did want to go back and ask you about something. So you had talked about when you actually didn't want to apply for the position you have now because you needed a master's degree. So your manager actually submitted your application for you. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
During the interview process, were you asked about that degree or did it come up? Because I think this is a really interesting lesson here. If there's a job that you really want and perhaps you don't have the credentials, you may still be qualified even though you don't have that degree.
Exactly.
don't let that stop you from applying for the position anyways. So your
Yeah.
interview, and did it come up at all? Did they notice? Did they say anything about it? What happened?
So it's a very weird scenario. So the supervisor was, a personal friend. Like, she's been a cheerleader for me growing in the company, whatever that looked like from the beginning. And then the person that she actually had to go to for approval for applying for me was the person that actually created Dr. Amen 30 years ago. Because when we first started doing spec scans, immediately go to Dr. Amen. There wasn't an intake. There wasn't all these formal appointments prior. And this person that was the one that said, yes, we should definitely train her to do it, really started and birthed that position. So for me, it was like, holy crap. Like, not only did they believe in me, but the person who, like, this was like her baby, like her and Dr. Amen's baby was this position. Like, they want me to do it. It was amazing. And this is one of the first times I've actually been able to talk about it without crying, because I just still can't believe it. And since then, I've encouraged, when we are hiring and looking at people that have a bachelor's in psychology, where is that missing piece? That missing piece for me was knowing, without realizing it, the brain health was the missing piece for me in my whole life and all of my educational goals. For someone with just a bachelor's degree and then the coaching certification and all of the information that I have at my disposal, for me to call someone with like 15 letters at the end of their name and like offer to help them, for a while, that was really weird. And I kind of had to grow into that confidence. But it just goes to show that you don't have to be a physician. Like, you don't have to be a therapist to make a difference in people's lives if it's coming from a genuine place and you're taking advantage of all the knowledge that you have. And I was just fortunate that so many of the Amen physicians just took me under their wing and were super loving and supportive of me. And I was actually talking to him today for the first time in a long time. It's still weird for me to know that I work with people that I idolize so much and for them to be my colleagues, like Dr. Amen and Dr. Kidd and the psychiatrist in the Atlanta clinic that I worked with for 7.5 years. It's really crazy. It's really, really crazy that I'm as confident as I am with no letters after my name.
And what do you think it was that helped you build that confidence level up? Were you nervous when you first started or a little hesitant? And what was it that gave you that confidence boost?
So for me, it was doing the 1-page miracle from Dr. Amen and then some of the other things that he recommends when your social health is in the gutter. Because again, that was my biggest problem. Even my brain scan wasn't as bad as the relationships that I was having at that time. And so I had to sit down, and this was hard, y'all. Like, this is gonna be really hard. But you write down the 5 people you spend the most time with, by choice or not. Who are the 5 people you spend the most time with? What are the 5 emotions you feel or thoughts you feel when you think of how you are when you're with that person? What are the first 5 thoughts and emotions you have, when you're thinking of seeing that person? And then what are the thoughts, feelings that you have after you've spent time with that person? And that was like, boom, like, I'm surrounded by people that don't support me. They put me down. They're, encouraging me to abuse substances, like all these things that I knew were not good and not good for my brain. But when I was seeking love and support from someone else, especially in romantic relationships, and they were unhealthy, I mean, you got to put a mirror up and be like, okay, like, how much do I not like myself if I'm going to let someone treat me this way? Like, it was just such a weird exercise to go through, and it is hard. It's kind of similar if there is a counselor watching or a life coach, kind of doing your life story, where you kind of have to write down the things that you remember and the thoughts, feelings, emotions associated with your life story. But for me at that time, and especially someone that does live in the moment as much as possible, it's like, holy crap, like, who are the 5 people in my life right now that I spend the most time with? And they are so loving and supportive. They tell me that I'm smart all the time. They are constantly thanking me for giving them my time and attention. They understand, like, when I say no, I mean no, but I very rarely say no if I can help somebody. So that exercise for me, and I do have to do that occasionally to remind myself, like, I love myself, and yeah, even still saying that is so hard. Like I have to remind myself of that. Like I love myself. And if I do, that means that when I mirror the people I'm surrounded by, they love me as much as I love me. And I love them as much as they love themselves. And I bring them up. You know, we're all here as humans on this planet. And if we can raise, you know, the vibration and love and kindness and compassion for each other, that sounds like a pretty good job to me. Like if that's my job as a human, like now that I finally know what it is, like I want to do a great job. I'm a perfectionist. I'm a pleaser. Like,
You know, turning the tables, I was thinking, you know, you were talking about the exercise, about how somebody makes you feel before, during, and after you see them. And I was like looking inward and I thought, wow, that's a really interesting exercise, even to take it from the other side of how can I make somebody feel really special or valued before meeting them, you know, while we're meeting, and even
yes.
after. You know,
Yeah.
sometimes even after seeing a friend and just sending a simple text like, wow, it really was so great seeing you today. It makes you feel so special when you receive it
Yes.
like that, even if it's from, you know, your bestie, or it's like, oh my gosh, like that was so nice, right? Like you can really leave a long lasting impression. So I love that. Thank you so much for sharing
My
that.
dog is still proud of me for saying all that stuff. She's been quiet this whole time. I gave her a peanut butter bone and she came over and she's like going crazy because she loves everybody, but she can sense people's energy. And like, there's people that have been in my life and she's just like judging me. When is this person going to be out of our lives?
Dogs know.
I can't wait to see you. Thank you so much for quality time. Like those texts mean so much, especially now. Like, you know, some of my friends are having a really hard time. They might not express how hard of a time that they're having or wanting help, but just being able to listen and just know like, hey, I'm thinking of you. And I know that your time is valuable no matter what you're doing or not doing. And I do love and value our friendship.
Oh, wow. Just think if you were to receive a text like that. And you know, actually, it feels good even to send a text like that to somebody.
Especially for my words of affirmations friends, which a lot of my friends are words of affirmations people, and gifts, which is like super easy for me. Physical touch person, so obviously that's been a struggle at times with COVID.
Oh gosh.
Like, I just want to see you and hug you. Can we just like make that happen?
Well, we have a few minutes left, and I did want to talk about Warrior Wednesday. So while you're talking about it, I'm going to share my screen and
Yay.
just show the event poster. So yeah, this is a very special live stream Fallon is doing on the Brain MD Health social platforms tomorrow. And I'm going to share my screen now just so we can all burn it in our brains. Tomorrow is Veterans Day. So for everybody who's watching, be sure to thank all the veterans, our first responders, frontline workers. You know, there's so many people working so hard during this time. And so, yeah, Fallon, let's hear it. What's happening tomorrow?
I'm so excited. So that's me pre-haircut and like not a professional picture. That was a selfie. It's totally so the next woman next to me is Carolyn Tucker. She is out of Atlanta. She's been a brain health coach with us for several years, and she's a trauma specialist, and she does a lot of different things with somatic experiencing and spiritual healing with her clients. And then Dr. Ruth Mary Allen is coming. She's in the UK, so she's a total angel for jumping up and down to do this with us when it's going to be like midnight her time.
And she's also a veteran.
Yes. So I'm really excited to hear from her. She specializes in havening technique, which we'll talk about what that is, which is awesome because you don't have to have someone with you, and she'll kind of walk you through when you need a havening practitioner, even via Zoom, versus when you can try and do it by yourself, which I have been doing it since we did a video together about it. And then Laura Temin is also a trauma therapist, and she specializes in hypnotherapy and EMDR. She's also in Atlanta. And I'll totally call her out on this tomorrow. She is, I would say 80% of the reason that I'm even doing this video, because she was helping me a lot in hypnotherapy with my confidence in speaking and just how that process is and how cool it was. I went from, like I said, like I used to kind of almost black out and not remember what I was doing when I was saying, because it was so just into full on panic. And she was able to reprogram me in just a few sessions to feel extremely confident, calm, and relaxed every time I speak, no matter if it's to a friend, no matter if it's to 500 people live, like whatever it is, I'm at peace. And I'm just so grateful that I get to hang out with them tomorrow. They're just three of the most amazing women on the planet. So we're so, so lucky to have them.
Yeah, so for anybody watching, again, if you're a veteran or no veteran or a first responder, have them tune in. It will be on the page. So if they can't make it at 6 Eastern, they can find it at a later time or perhaps the next day if they need to. But really some great tips and exercises and tools just for improving mental healthness or mental wellness and mental health all together. So I'm really looking forward to it. The havening exercise is actually really neat. We had a chance to do that with Dr. Ruth, and it's really simple. You could do it right now while sitting at your desk. It takes a few minutes and it really will help to calm you. If you're feeling stressed out, maybe you just got off a stressful call, or who knows, maybe got a bad email from a client. So it will just help you get your mind right very quickly. So some really great value there, and I can't wait for it. And gosh, Fallon, I want to thank you so much for joining me today. This was so great. I think we learned a lot. Man, you gave us a lot of exercises and some good information to go seek. So,
well, I am glad. And I definitely wanted to mention about tomorrow and just in general with veterans with brain health. We have a research study where SPECT imaging of the brain can distinguish between traumatic brain injury versus post-traumatic stress disorder. And both of them are common in veterans, which means that we need to repair the brain at a cellular level versus just kind of throwing medications, especially in the dark, just based on symptomology. And it's cool because we finally have a lot more conversation about the Quiet Explosions documentary, which Dr. Amen was a part of, and several of our affiliates were a part of that documentary, which kind of explains why you can have a traumatic brain injury just from a blast within close proximity to you. So that's just something to think about if you're like, oh, I'm a veteran, like I don't have PTSD or anything like that, but you'll learn some things, even if it's just related to cognition, memory, focus. There's a lot that we'll discuss that'll be helpful.
Oh, great. Oh gosh. Well, to our viewers, thank you again for watching. Again, please start a watch party or share this with some loved ones in your life who could use some of these tips. We really appreciate you for viewing in today. And we hope everybody has a wonderful afternoon, and gosh, enjoy the rest of the week. It's we just gotta be confident and just be grateful, and that will help us just get into the right mindset. There's a lot going on in this world, but you know what? We don't have to let it get us down. So again,
Absolutely.
thank you, everybody. And thank you, Fallon.
You're welcome.